Welcome to the Wickedly Smart Women podcast, featuring stellar conversations with emerging and established wickedly smart women. Thanks for joining us today as we celebrate women who are committed, care deeply, and have the courage to take action and create conscious change all around the world. Now here's your wickedly smart host, Anjel B. Hartwell.
Welcome to another episode of the Wickedly Smart Women podcast, where we celebrate wickedly smart women and provide our listeners with a wealth of wisdom along with immediately actionable steps to be smarter, spunkier, and more successful in their impact and their leadership. This is your host, Anjel B. Hartwell, and today we welcome our very special guest, Misty Cogdill. Misty has been studying handwriting analysis since 2011 and works with business owners, network marketers, entrepreneurs, coaches, speakers, service professionals, and anyone who wants to increase their business and reach their goals using handwriting analysis and the power of questions. Unlike other coaches, Misty is able to develop specific coaching to help you reach your goals by analyzing personality traits and blocks in your handwriting. As a student of the power of questions, Misty understands that life is a reflection of the questions that we ask ourselves, and she will help you to uncover the best questions to serve you. I am so delighted that you are with me today, Misty. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here, and I'm so looking forward to this conversation.
Well, you are one of the most inspiring women I've recently met, Misty, and we met through actually a mutual friend and former client of mine. And when we met, I remember just feeling so much enthusiasm just emanates off of you. And so I knew that you were going to be just a great addition to the show. And of course, this beautiful, practice that you have, or expertise, that's the word I want, this beautiful expertise that you have in the area of handwriting, which is something that a lot of people just don't even think about and is very unusual, would be of interest to the listeners. So I want to dive in by asking, what got you started, Misty, in this area? This is such a fascinating study.
Yes, well, that's a great question that I'm asked several times, and it goes back to actually my mom wanted to change her handwriting my whole life, and I always blew it off and thought, well, who cares? Like, that's no big deal. Handwriting's nothing, right? And I didn't realize then what I had discovered later, and I had gotten married when I was 22. And I was very bubbly, extrovert girl, loved people, was connected, just loved life, and I was an only child with a single mother, so I knew myself very well. And so when I got married, it took about a year for me to recognize when I changed my last name, I changed my signature. And that signature over time, because I didn't write every day, it took about a year for me to recognize that I was different. And I remember asking everybody, is this what marriage does to you? It changes you? I was like, I didn't sign up for this part. I'm like, I liked who I was. I liked the personality that I had. And I'm like, and now I feel different. Like, there's certain parts of me that went missing. I was all of a sudden becoming more introvert, and I was all of a sudden analyzing everything, and I was more in my head than in my heart. And I was like, this is not how I know how I've experienced life. It was just different, and I could not explain to anybody. People are like, well, you just changed. That's just the way it is. And I wouldn't accept that answer. And I was like, no, something happened, and I need to figure out what it is. And I searched and I read books, and I, was asking tons of questions and never found the answer until after I had gotten divorced. I got my maiden name back. And then again, it took a little while, and I got my old personality back. And I was like, whoa, I'm me again. So it is marriage that changes you. And I was like, okay, but why does it change you? And then I realized that through your signature, when I changed my last name, I really recognized that the power of the pen, and changing my signature back is what, and then I started to do research and start putting the puzzle pieces together of how handwriting reflects our thinking, and then started to really research, and all the research that I found, I just became fascinated with it. And I was like, do all women know this? When you change your name, or you change your handwriting, it can completely alter your thinking. And now I know it's a map on paper to how we think. And it can either serve us well or it can limit us. And depending on how you write and what's there can really shift a lot of things for people. So that's kind of my story, more how it unfolded.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And as somebody, for the Wickedly Smart women who are listening to this show, you may have been an early listener. And if you were an early listener, you know that my name when I first started the show was Emerald Peaceful Green Forest. And I just recently changed my name because I got a numerology reading that said that name was really horrible for my health. It was really horrible for my business. And it was actually what I was experiencing. So I can attest just to the power, because I've changed my own name. This will be the third time I've changed my name. But I never had connected that to actually the handwriting piece until you came along into my life and we had a lovely conversation about that. So I want to talk a little bit with you today, Misty, about when you made this discovery. You could have just taken that discovery and just done the change in your own life, right?
Yes.
And just been having that be maybe a side interest of yours. But you decided to go all in and actually serve people in this area. What were you doing before you got into handwriting analysis and before you started your own business?
Yeah, I was in real estate, new construction. I worked at Mattamy Homes and Pulte Homes in Minnesota. And in new construction, obviously we see a lot of signatures when people sign purchase agreements. And I became the really cool friend or the really cool person that says, hey, she does handwriting and you should talk to her. And it was always a fun thing that made me a fun friend or a fun person to buy from, because we always had interesting conversations. And it was always, I became known as that. And I had several friends whose lives had completely altered after I'd given them advice, on what to change. And so I started to build a whole testimonial, so to speak, of everybody that I was working with. And I started to recognize that people's lives were completely altering. And I even had one gentleman who was a friend of mine say to me, I would have died a lonely old man if it wasn't for you. He goes, you come along, you help me change, this certain situation in my life, completely opened up. And he was stuck in fear. And when he said that, I was like, I have to share this with the world, because how many other people are blocked? How many other people are stuck? How many other people that don't know what they don't know is holding them back in life? And they can be living a much more fulfilling life that can open doors for them where they wouldn't be able to access it otherwise, because they don't know to change it. They know that that's a tool.
Yeah, I have a weird tangential question that's just popping in right now. I wonder if you had kept your maiden name, if the marriage would have turned out differently. I'm just curious about that.
I've had that same wondering myself, but I recognize, we're all on a journey. But for women, I've had so many women are like, so does that mean I have to get divorced? And I say, no. Absolutely not. But what you can do is be educated on this so that you can make an informed decision on, there's nothing wrong with journaling your name every morning. If you liked your maiden name and you liked the way things were before, you can take a pen and paper and write your name again and hyphenate it, so then it just adds to you. It doesn't actually take away. So when I get married again, I'm going to hyphenate my name, and I won't get rid of Cogdill this time. I will just add to his last name, whether I like that last name or whether, we'll worry about that when the time comes. But you can always you can take a pen and paper every morning and you can journal and just add to what's already there so that people don't have to lose who they are. They can just add to it. And there's some women I've met that they did not like their maiden name at all, and they absolutely love their married name. So for them, they skyrocketed and they had a really good experience. But that doesn't happen with every woman. So it's just a matter of getting educated and understanding this so that you can make an informed decision on what's best for you and what you like to experience.
Yeah, beautiful. I have a friend who her last name when she married, it was really a great last name, and she decided to keep it as she's going through the divorce process. So I totally get that as well. Well, I want to hear how you evolved from the real estate industry, because that was another thing you and I had in common. Now, I had been in real estate. You've been in real estate. In fact, I used to consult to Pulte Home Corp. So we have that in common as well. So
Yes.
When did you make the decision, and how did handwriting and maybe your own practices of handwriting, when did you make the decision, and how did those practices maybe support you in stepping into being an entrepreneur and leaving the real estate industry behind?
Yeah, so I had gotten into real estate right shortly within like 6 months after my divorce. And I was recognizing what handwriting, the power of handwriting, and really taking on a new way of writing. And then real estate presented itself. So it's really like they came together in a package. And so as I began to evolve and grow and develop in my own self with my own journey that I was on, plus learning about the power of handwriting and doing real estate, like it all formed together. And I obviously in real estate, I got to see people's signatures all the time. So it was a catalyst for my growth because I was seeing people's, new people all the time, every day. And then they would sign the registration card, and then I would see what was there, and then I would get to analyze that. So it was almost like a study course, that the universe was putting me through, saying, hey, we need you to study this, and we're putting you in real estate to study. And then when you're ready, we will have you take that next step. So after 8 years, I just had this burning desire that it's like, I want to share this with the world. I want to take it out there and share with as many people as possible. And this is what's the most fulfilling for me, that just I get so much joy out of watching someone's life go from something that was hurting them and not benefiting or serving them to like, wow, like things open up in the most amazing ways. And now their life is forever transformed because of the information, that I got to educate them. And then there's nothing but gratitude and appreciation. So it's like, if I could do that for one person, I want to do it for as many people as possible and be able to change lives and get this into the school systems and just be able to have that difference that gets made that wouldn't have get to be made otherwise because of the connection that I had recognized.
Yeah. So then if you started in 2011, that would mean like 2019. So you've been in business for yourself for about a year now, or a little more than 2 years now?
Yep. So a little bit about, so it's been a year now. I'm also a Bob Proctor coach. So I started with that thinking that was going to be, that would set me apart from all the other Bob Proctor coaches with thinking into results. That's what got me started with it. And I didn't recognize at that time, I joined BNI and everything. And I was always talking about the handwriting. And then people are like, I want your handwriting course. And I'm like, well, it's in the Bob Proctor program. And then they're like, well, I don't want the Bob Proctor program. I want your handwriting course. And so I had my own journey of learning and growing. And what was always coming out of my mouth, because I love it so much, because I've seen the difference that it makes, is that the handwriting had to be number one. So now that I've made handwriting number one at the beginning of this year, and have put an entire course together and have had several people that have had tremendous breakthroughs. And I had one gentleman, he was earning $8 million a year. He absolutely was doing all the right things, but he felt like he had a limit. He heard me speak and he's like, I'm going to take your course, and I'm not going to do anything else but take your course so that I can prove to myself as well as to other people that this is what shifted. And he started earning $12 million within a matter of 3 months.
Wow.
He was just like, everything just blew up for him, but he removed the limits that were in his handwriting. And I told him, I'm like, you've got the big bubble A, the backwards D, and the figure 8S. I'm like, that's going to hold you back. I'm like, I don't care how much you try. That is limiting you no matter what you do. Until you change that, it's not going to give you different results. And when he changed it, it opened the floodgates and it just started pouring in for him.
Wow, that is powerful. Well, we're going to pick that up on the back end of our break. We're at the break right now, but we definitely want to talk about that client and specifically the things that you were talking about, the figure eight S and the backwards D and the bubble A or something. I can't remember exactly what you said, but we'll pick that up on the back end. But right now we are at the break. Wickedly Smart Women, we are looking for some help from you. If you are enjoying this show and want us to stay on the air, please consider making a donation at www.wickedlysmartwomen.com. We'd also like to ask you to share our show with your lovely lady friends who you think might benefit from our content. Help a gal out and let your sisters, mothers, daughters, friends, and colleagues know about the show so we can serve them too. We are setting up a Facebook community. This coming year is our year for expanding into that space and bringing a community together. We've also started the Wickedly Smart Women store, which you can find out more about over on Facebook. We will have the links for that in the show notes. And I want to thank all of our listeners who are downloading in 50 countries around the world for your downloads, your ratings, your reviews. And also I'm celebrating that the Wickedly Smart Women podcast was the People's Choice Award-winning podcast for the 15th Annual Podcast Awards in the business category. So lots to celebrate here today. And we are welcoming, as I said, thousands of downloads from all over the world. I want to shout out this week to our listeners in Texas, because the last I knew, Misty, who also has an RV lifestyle, which we might talk a little bit about after the break. Right now she's in Texas. So hello to all of our listeners in Texas. And also let's shout out to our listeners in Portugal. I think we'll shout out to our listeners in Portugal, and we'll be right back with Misty Cogdill.
The Wickedly Smart Women podcast is brought to you by the Wealthy Life Mentor. Women, are you on the edge knowing that life is calling you to make a change? Are you ready to be part of the evolution of what it means to be a wickedly smart woman, creating your wealthy life by design? A life that is an extraordinary work of art. Anjel B. Hartwell, the Wealthy Life Mentor, is hired by women in transition. Women just like you who want to break through to their brilliance, become clear on the value of their wisdom, and embody a beauty-filled, balanced life of shameless self-expression. Discover your wealthy life readiness by taking the quiz at quiz.wealthylifementor.com.
And we are back with our special guest, Misty Cogdill, and she can be found at handwritingsoulacademy.com. handwritingsoulacademy.com. And I'd love to have you tell people what they're going to find when they get there, Misty. I know that you have put together a course. I know you've got a book. What are they going to find when they get to handwritingsoulacademy.com?
Yeah, so when they log on to my website at handwritingsoulacademy.com, they're going to see my website and they're going to be able to scroll through and read a little bit about handwriting, a little bit about my story. And then about the middle of the page down when they're scrolling, they're going to see 3 different packages. So one package is a silver package for $197 where people are able to send me their signature and a sample of their handwriting. And I can speak with them about where their blocks are. And then I focus mainly on their name, the letters in their name, the patterns behind the letters in their name, and all of that. And then I've got a second package, which is the gold package for $1997, which is a 3-month program, 12 weeks, where we go in depth with handwriting and the power of questions. The power of questions is super enlightening as well because we're always asking questions every day automatically. We just aren't necessarily aware of it. So starting to ask questions that are going to serve us in the most beneficial way is going to serve everybody at their highest and best as well. So that program is 3 months long. You've got 12 different videos that you watch, and then they upload everything for their handwriting every day into the private Facebook group so that I can hold everybody accountable, making sure that they're getting the most out of the program. And then from there, I've got a platinum program, which is diving deeper with the handwriting, going into, working with your non-dominant hand and looking at working with your inner child, as well as doing the Thinking into Results program with Bob Proctor. So It's a 6-month program with Bob Proctor and then a 6-month program with me on the other side. The platinum program includes the gold package and the silver package as well. But those are the 3 packages that I offer. They'll scroll through. They'll also see that I'm a #1 Amazon best-selling author of the book, You Can Heal Your Life with Handwriting. That became #1 at the end of September, which was super, super exciting and super fun to experience that. And everybody was loving it. I've been getting lots of emails and messages saying that they loved my book. So that was a lot of fun to have my information and my story go out there to the world and be able to reach more people.
Yeah, beautiful, Misty. Well, thank you. And I want to just encourage our listeners, because I actually had the silver package. I received the silver package with Misty. And as a result of that, I had been just fresh off of changing my name. So I'm still growing into that signature, but it was very revelatory for me. It was very interesting to get some of the data and the information that she was able to see right away in my handwriting, and, just subtle shifts. I know for me, after having that appointment with you, Misty, I can tell you that there's been some subtle shifts. Now that I have awareness, I can consciously make the change. When I consciously make the change, then it results in the subtle shift. And every subtle shift also has longer term ripple effect consequences. So I'm just really grateful for the work that you're doing. And as you can tell, ladies, Misty is incredibly both skilled and enthusiastic about what she has to offer. And so I highly encourage you to go check out her website and avail yourself of one or more of the packages. So, Misty, let's talk just for a few minutes about, what do you mean by the backwards D, the figure 8 S, the rounded A, or whatever it was that you said? What does that mean? Maybe pick one of those. Maybe we'll just pick one of those and talk about it, and how that particular characteristic of handwriting, what impact it might have on people.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll pick the A because that was the first letter. So, well, first of all, I'd like to say the way we were taught in grade school was 80% limiting. And that was a shock to me, because I was like, 80% limiting, that means all of us were given handwriting when we were taught at 5 or 6 years old that was limiting from the get-go. And I'm like, so we were all not set up for success, and it makes things harder. Not to say that you can't do it, but it's like going uphill in a stream versus downhill. Obviously, uphill is harder and downstream is a lot easier. So that's the analogy that I like to share with people. And it's like, wow, well, there's blocks out there that are holding people back, and that, they think that they can't do it, but really they can. The block that they've got in their signature. So when I talk about the big bubble A, that's how we were taught in grade school, is to write the big bubble A when you're signing something, the capital A. And that is basically, it's egoic. And having the ego kind of be the front center of your life. And the analogy that I've come up with is like, you've got your human, and then you've got your soul. And if you guys are both in the driver's seat of your life, there's one vehicle, and there's a front seat and there's a back seat. So what I share with people is, if you write the star A, you've got spirit in the front seat and ego in the back seat. So the spirit side of you is making the decisions and calling the shots. If reversed and you were writing the big bubble A, and then you've got spirit in the back seat and you've got the ego in the front seat calling all the shots and making all the decisions. And that's the analogy that I've come up with to explain what's going on in the psyche as things are shifting, and when I see that in somebody's handwriting.
Beautiful. Well, I'm glad that I naturally write the star A. When my name was Amethyst, I wrote the A that way, like a star. And when it became Anjel, I reverted right back to writing my name with the star A. I never actually did the big bubble A. Maybe I did when I was a kid, but I think the most important thing that I want to really underscore here, ladies, if you're listening, is the handwriting that's taught in our educational system is 80% limiting. And this does not surprise me, because our educational system was originally designed to create people who were factory workers, who would follow orders, who would conform, who would do what the people in power told them to do. And so it's not at all surprising to me that you've said that, Misty, that our handwriting is limited from the get-go. So if you have children, you may want to consider whether or not you want them to conform to the system's way of teaching handwriting. All right, we only have a couple of minutes left, Misty. So I do want to ask you one question about, for you, what it's been like as an entrepreneur in the last year, and how your work with handwriting has helped you to have maybe a more improved relationship with money and with business.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I am really accessing a lot of power through Zoom. Obviously, Zoom with COVID and everything that hit in February, it really shook a lot of people's worlds. But as we were able to connect through Zoom, I was like, well, this is an online business for me. So I'm able to, show people through handwriting. I can still take a piece of paper and show it on Zoom with what I'm trying to explain, as well as the course online. So there's certain letters that will bring in and attract more money than other letters, and there's certain patterns that come with it. I was actually just speaking with a gentleman earlier today who went from the name Bill to the name Will, because his name is William. And a lot of the times people that are born William will sometimes end up with the name Bill. And he said after he had gotten divorced, he had changed his name from Bill to Will. And he said everything changed. Everything flooded to him. And I said, well, the W is one of the letters that definitely helps attract more money. There's 4 of them. And that is one of them. So he was like, yeah, he goes, that's amazing. He goes, you just validated something that I kind of knew but didn't really know. And he was confirmation of what I knew to be true as well. So when you change your name or when you change certain letters, you will experience life differently. And whether you like that experience or not is up to you, but just know that you can do something about it. You can educate yourself on this and make an informed decision. Versus
Beautiful.
What you don't know, leaving it out there not knowing doesn't serve you.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, thank you for being an advocate to everyone for educating themselves. And thank you for bringing this education about handwriting to our Wickedly Smart Women community. And ladies, the W is one letter that brings you money. I highly suggest you go to Misty's site, handwritingsoulacademy.com, and get an analysis from her and find out what the other 3 letters are that bring you money, if that's an area where you would like to create change in your life right now. So thanks again, Misty, for being with us. It was a pleasure to have you, as I knew it would be. I know that you're having a wonderful life as an online business owner, traveling around the country in your RV right now, which we could do another whole show about that sometime possibly in the future. So definitely, ladies, get connected with this lovely woman. She is such an enthusiastic being and just has so much expertise and so much desire to help others. So thanks again for being with us, Misty. And listeners, we do love feedback. So please let us know what you thought of today's show by calling into our listener line. We'll have that in the show notes, or send in questions or guest suggestions to listeners@wickedlysmartwomen.com. We might even give you a shout out on the show. Thanks for tuning in. Keep your ears open, and remember, you are a wonderful woman.
Thanks for tuning in, downloading, and listening. Be sure to rate and review Wickedly Smart Women on Apple Podcasts and share with other women who can benefit from today's episode. Wickedly Smart Women is the premier podcast series for informing, activating, and inspiring the leader who carries profound wisdom and knows that now is the time to welcome wealth. We welcome your feedback and guest suggestions and invite you to subscribe to our mailing list to be notified of each new episode at wickedlysmartwomen.com.